This is a rice field near Crowley, Louisiana. Those are paths made by feral hogs. Those gaps are where those hogs have rooted around and destroyed parts of this rice crop. This is the kind of damage happening all across the state. A recent survey from the LSU AgCenter found the damage estimates to be about $91 million every year. Dr. Glenn Gentry with the LSU AgCenter has been working on a solution for many years now and has developed a lethal bait using sodium nitrite with the help of the LSU chemistry department.
We had to come up with a bait design that pigs would readily consume and come up with something that would kill pigs and relatively leave non-targets unaffected.
Forming a fish meal flavor and the toxicants into a bait that will work in the wild is another challenge. That's why Dr. Gentry enlisted the help of the LSU chemistry department years ago, now chaired by Dr. John Poyman.
What we needed to do was just keep the sodium nitrite, the active ingredient in the bait, from breaking down and giving a bad smell. And so we found all we had to do was add basically an antacid to it. In the same way that you take an antacid for an upset stomach, this would raise what we call the pH to make it very basic, and that'll stabilize and keep the sodium nitrate from breaking down.
Along with keeping the chemistry from breaking down and the toxicant becoming ineffective, Dr. Poyman and his team also worked to make sure the bait would not physically break down when a hog is eating it and leave a lot of crumbs on the landscape.
So we needed to make the bait into a form that would be flexible and squishy, so when a hog bit it, it wouldn't fracture into a lot of little pieces. Oh, I think we have the chemistry down. That's not the problem. And we now have a formulation that is really functional. It works well in their baiting system. The hogs eat it. It doesn't leave contamination in the environment. So I think we have that part down. Now it's an issue that's regulatory and actually delivering it into the environment.
For Gentry, the next step is clear, but proving difficult.
Field trials. If we can get field trials done, and we're working now trying to get an experimental use permit from the EPA, which is proven increasingly difficult. We can try all we want to simulate what happens in the pens, but it's not the same. And until we can prove that the bait that we have is effective on the landscape, we're not going to be able to move forward.
Even after trials and these tools eventually make it to the marketplace, it will still not be the magic bullet for Louisiana's hog problems.
It's going to take management, and this is the toxicants, whichever are put on the market, will just be another tool in the toolbox. It's going to take hunting, it's going to take trapping, it's going to take toxicants for us to learn how to manage these populations. You've got to remove 75% of the population just to hold numbers where they are right now.
According to Dr. Gentry, farmers could have this tool on their farm within a couple of years. Now that's assuming they can get their experimental use permit and expand their testing into real-world scenarios, even right there on Idlewild Research Station. If you'd like to see the survey and learn more about the research that they're doing, head over to our website at twilatv.org. And Avery, I've got to say, this is one of the very first stories I did.
Right.
We didn't talk about this before, really, but whenever I was an intern,
I was about to say,
I did a story on this.
This story wasn't one of the first ones you did, but about feral hogs.
Right. So it's been an issue for a long time, and Dr. Gentry has been working for, I think he said 8 to 9 years on this, but the problem with wild hogs is the way that they reproduce so fast. He told me one sow and her litter can become, in 48 months, can become hundreds. 72 months, it's thousands.
Wow.
So they're predicting somewhere in the million, around 1 million hogs right now in the state. And they have to get rid of, they have to kill 70% to 75% every year to keep that population where it's at.
Right, to stay
just
at a
right
baseline.
where it's at. It's crazy. It's crazy how much work is ahead of Louisiana farmers and LSU folks.
So going from that first story you did to now, what have you seen different? What has changed between those two times?
Well, one thing I've seen on my own family's farm is these farmers are finding new ways to fight. I mean, we've done stories about people hunting. Hunting is it's a recreational aspect, but it also has the management tool. There's also folks starting to trap. And one thing Dr. Gentry said is all of these methods to maintaining this population are going to be necessary. They're all going to be tools that these farmers and landowners need to have in their toolbox. And this toxicant that they're working on will just be another one of those tools. So hopefully we can get it out onto the market. I say we like I have something to do with it, but hopefully it's on the market soon because, I mean, farmers need some help. $91 million a year is nothing to to bat an eye at. I mean, that's big numbers.
And not to stretch this out too far, but you know, a lot of folks say, well, why don't we just fly in helicopters and mow them down? But
Not
you had some
quite as
drone
easy.
shots that showed the problem with that.
Yeah, even in that couple acre pen, they have these hogs for research. There are trees, and when they go in that tree line, from overhead in my drone, you can't see it. So it's a problem, and it's going to be it's not quite as easy. I was out in West Texas where there's a couple trees per 1,000 acres. So it's a different story over here in Louisiana.
Well, thank you very much for bringing that story to us, Karl Wiggers.